Good evening, everyone. We're here for a public hearing, and I'll read the public notice. The Board of Commissioners of the City of Mount Juliet will have a public hearing on Monday, January 8th at 6:15 at City Hall for the items to be considered on second and final reading. And the first one, there's 5 items here. I will read them for you. To amend Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, known as zoning regulations, Article 11 signs, rezone the property known as 330 West Division Street, map 73L, Group C, Parcel 2, from OPS to CTC. Amend the land use plan for the property known as Golden Bear Place located at 4403, 4515 Beckwith Road, map 76, part of Parcel 12, 1701, 1702, from Interstate Commercial to Interstate Commercial Mixed Use Business Development Center and High Density Residential to rezone from CI to CI PUD and CRC PUD to Commercial Mixed Use Plan Unit Development, CMU PUD, and to amend the preliminary master development plan for the Golden Bear Place. The fourth item is to amend Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, known as the zoning regulations, Article 3, use regulations, add sections 3, 108, temporary events, use, and portable buildings to include mobile food vendors, food trucks, regulations for residential and industrial districts. And the fifth item is to amend fiscal year 2023-2024 to accept and appropriate grant funds for the Golden Bear and Volunteer Boulevards traffic signal project. The public is invited to attend and comment. So if you have any comments on any of these 5 items, I'd invite you to come forward. If you have questions or comments on any of the other items, we will hold a public hearing, citizen comments at our regular meeting at 6:30. But if you would like to comment now on any of these items, I'd ask you to come forward and give your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Mark Hinesley, 1006 Benton Harbor Boulevard.
All right, you're recognized for 3 minutes, sir.
Can my 3 minutes start when Commissioner Justice comes in as well? Or does he not get to hear? He's going to be voting on it, right?
He is.
My 3 minutes is already underway with him out there.
If you want to yield to somebody else.
I'll do that. I'd prefer all 5 of you be here if that's okay.
My name is Vince King. I live at 24 4th Avenue here in Mount Juliet. I wanted to speak on the ordinance to change the zoning on 330, I think it's West Division.
Yes, sir.
I know I'm a little premature on this, but I want to make sure that everybody knows the residents are asking adamantly that there is no traffic allowed to come out of that development on the 4th Avenue. We've got enough traffic over there as it is, and cut through traffic and the parks over there with kids. And again, I know I'm a little premature, but I just wanted to make that known.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else?
I guess y'all can just pass the word. Is that okay? I'll go ahead and get started. Thank you.
Well, we'll have actual citizen comments at the 6:30 meeting if you want to do.
No, this is fine.
Okay.
I just, is the sign ordinance going to be on the consent agenda, or are you going to pull it off so that you can discuss it?
I'm going to try to remove that during said agenda.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and get started then.
All right.
Because I'm here to just share a few thoughts about the proposed sign ordinance changes specifically and really pretty much only related to the banners. Been a lot of questions, concerns. I want to thank Kenny and Sheila and Jennifer. I know Marty was there. Jill came out. Thank you for coming on site today and sharing real life experiences out there on Lebanon Road in front of the basement marketplace. So one thing I know we all agree on is none of us, we want good banners. We want nice banners. We don't want to see unkept or unsightly or unsafe banners. So I think we're all in agreement on that. We all agree that we want nice, well-kept banners to be allowed in the city for business, churches, schools, city parks department events and things like that. And I really just hope that we can find a place to be in the middle where we can all kind of get what we want. Certainly understand that none of us want some of the things that are out there right now, but I have a few ideas to pass along. maybe just the ordinance as it's presented without necessarily the banners included. Perhaps crack down on the violations instead of making the good ones go away. Continue, please, to promote local shopping and to protect our small businesses. And I want to just share a couple of real life dollars and cents with you. And how about a quote from Ronald Reagan? It's easy to farm when your plow in your field is 1,000 miles away. I'd suggest to you that our fields and our plows are literally within walking distance of the front door. And it may not seem like a lot, but if you put up a banner at any business that collects sales tax and you get, I don't know, 5 customers spending $10 or 2 spending $25, if that banner generates $50 a day, 6 days a week, 52 weeks a year, $15,600 in revenue. You take the average small business, 1,200 square feet, paying $20 a square foot, that comes to $12,000, $2,000 a month in rent. That's nearly 8 months of rent paid by $50 a day. So I think that's really important. And from the city's perspective, and I'll close with this, sales tax is a pretty fickle thing. And 2020, I'm speaking specifically for November, the most recent reports we have, you have them as well. 2020 over 2019 was almost $750,000 more than the year before. 2021 over 2020 was $405,000 more. 22 over 21 was only $219,000. And last week's report showing that the November of 23 over November of 22 was only $33,000 increase. We've went from 750 to only 33. That's not the sky is falling, but it does tell us that sales tax is not a given. So that's last November was literally just about 4.5% of what it was just in 2019. So very important. It's tough out there. It's a grind and they fight every single day. And with BJ's coming in and Costco coming in, there's room for small business. They don't sell everything. We still need our small businesses, but shopping habits and traffic patterns are going to change. And the margins are so small that any little thing I think can have a negative impact. So I'd ask that you keep in mind, make sure it's mutually beneficial that we get what we want, please, without taking a dent out of our local business sales tax. 3 minutes, close enough? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. All right, order, please. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Julie Rooswald. My address is 302 Boxbury Court. I own 2 small businesses in Mount Juliet. One is the Basement Marketplace, which is a retail store, and the other is Merit Insurance Agency. Both are located at 14625 Lebanon Road. I'm also the incoming chairman of the board for the Mount Juliet Chamber of Commerce. I want to talk to you specifically today about the changes that are being proposed around temporary signage on commercially zoned property and temporary event signage, and also how those changes are going to impact my small business. I host several events throughout the year, and 2 of those events are pop-up markets, like an artisan craft market. So for those events, I fill out the permit form on the city's page website, and I'm allowed to use a banner for 30 days currently to advertise my event. So right now, under the current sign ordinance, I can use a banner that's 24 square foot maximum. The proposed sign ordinance eliminates the ability for me to use a banner. I'm required now to use a 20 square foot maximum versus 24 of a rigid corrugated plastic sign. Also, currently for temporary events, you can place your signage out for 30 days in advance of the event, and the new proposal says only 7 days in advance of the event. So this new sign ordinance is going to impact my small business and the customers and the vendors and the traffic that sees that signage on my property. It's going to impact the cost because I can purchase a banner for under $100. And when I contacted a local sign company and asked them for pricing for the rigid corrugated plastic sign in a frame, it's going to be over $500. So that's a big expense for me. Also, I'm on Lebanon Road. I need signage that people can read when they're driving 45 miles an hour down the road. So a banner works really well for that, and it withstands the wind well. And I don't believe that the corrugated plastic is going to withstand the wind and the traffic that comes on Lebanon Road. So, and again, on the current ordinance, I can place my signage for 30 days, and the new one says 7 days for temporary events. So that impacts the effectiveness of the signage that I receive. Some other things just that I noticed in the ordinance overall, but temporary construction sites are allowed 3 signs on the lot, depending on the size of the property, 3 or 4 signs, but for temporary commercial signs, we're only allowed 1. So in summary, just as a local business owner, I'm asking you, give us more options instead of less options. Involve your local business community when these types of changes are being proposed and reviewed. Get feedback from various types of business owners, small business, large business, restaurant, retail, all different types of things. I love having my business in this community, and I love how supportive this community is of my business. But bottom line is I need customers to be able to see my signage and to know when I'm having something special, a special event going on. So the last time we did this ordinance, I think it was 2018. And my recommendation is if we're going to do this, revise this ordinance, let's just work on it and really make sure that we get it right. Thank you.
There we go. Pat here wasn't responding. It's 6:30. We need to close the public hearing. We'll go into the regular meeting. We'll get right back up here and we'll pick right back up with comments on that, if that's okay. All right, thank you. All right, it is 6:30, so it is time for our regular commission meeting. We have, or I don't have my notes here, but it's January 8th, 2024. I'll call this meeting to order. We have all 5 members of the Board of Commissioners, and we have a quorum present pursuant to 622:10, and we'll proceed with conducting the business of the city. So I want to thank you for all attending here tonight. It's transparent as can be for you to see what happens here. Tennessee law allows you to be here to participate into this, and we're going to open up this meeting here and get everyone as involved as possible. Our first item that is on our agenda is the setting of the agenda. The agendas should be in the wire baskets on the side. I don't see anything in the wire baskets. Maybe they've all been taken up. Might be a popular item tonight. But if you're at home watching, you can follow along online. With the agenda tonight, I would have just a few changes here I'd like to request to take 8C and 8D, move that directly behind the consent agenda, and then move 8A to sign ordinance off the consent agenda as well. Is there any objections to that? All right, hearing that, we will set the agenda as published with the change of pulling those 3 items off the consent agenda. So we have a 133-page packet, 6 items in unfinished, 4 under new business. So we will proceed with conducting business with that. Our next item on the agenda is our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Mr. Martin, would you lead us in the prayer and the pledge, please?
Everybody join me in the prayer and the pledge, please. I'll start with the prayer. Dear Lord, thanks so much for this beautiful time we shared tonight to fellowship and gather to improve our city overall. Thank you for all the many blessings that you bestow upon us and our community. We're most thankful, most blessed for that, but thanks most of all for giving your only begotten Son to die for our sins. Please help us to have a great meeting tonight. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance.
Thank you, sir. Our next item is the approval of the minutes, and this is from our December 11th meeting. Is there any questions, comments on those? All in favor of the minutes as presented from December 11th, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes pass. Now we're right back where we left off with citizen comments. So I know there was a young lady who was, there she is. So, but just to say, in order to conduct an efficient business-like meeting, we've adopted a few rules. We just ask that you present your comments to myself, the mayor. We're not obligated to answer questions from the floor, but I can appoint somebody to get with you if you got anything that's up. Just, we ask you stay on topics. Don't make these personal about people, and just be courteous to us all. And with that, I'll take your name and address for the record, please.
Stephanie Hall, 890 Plowson Road.
Thank you.
And I just want to make sure with the rearrangement of the agenda, I can still speak on the banner ordinance.
This is your only time to speak at this meeting.
No, like since you removed it from
Oh.
the agenda, may I speak on it?
Yeah, no, we haven't removed anything from the agenda. We removed it from consent.
Okay,
So that we'll do the consent agenda, which is the items that we'll read together. Then we'll read it separately so it can be considered for
Okay.
change.
so I can still speak. on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Please.
perfect. Okay, so I'm speaking tonight on behalf of a joint neighborhood commission that we use to participate together: Stone Hollow, Saddlewood, Tuscan Gardens, Park Glen, and other small businesses. I'm speaking on behalf of the sign ordinance as it does impact neighborhood community events and community yard sale events along with small businesses. I understand that the rewording of the ordinance seems benign. However, the ripple effect can be very impactful, and the detriment to the community can be seen. Temporary signs and banners are just that. They are temporary. I can tell you as a community member, I do not have the drive time to read the marquee on Mount Juliet Road. If a local business uses the marquee to advertise, I'm sure that it is costly. I did not research the cost. However, the advertising is a scrolling screen. Therefore, a driver would have to stop to read it, and the information could be missed. That's also the only marquee in our city. What are the other options that a business could use other than affording the new signs that are costly, as you heard from other businesses, up to $500? For our community yard sale, we're not using any profit. This is to help our local community and advertise these events. Another example is the surrounding neighborhoods, as I was saying, use the community yard sale events. We draw in passerbys with temporary banners so that we can help support our neighbors. With the new wording, we wouldn't have to affix these signs to permanent structures. Stone Hollow and Tuscan Gardens do not have their clubhouses on the road, so they would not be able to participate with those types of banners. I was going to talk about other things, but I heard some of the rewording, so I'm going to take those off. So that's really all I had for tonight.
Thank you. Order, please. Is anyone else to address the Board of Commissioners? I got to work the order out here.
Sorry.
Now, name and address for the record, please.
Sebastian Ballant, 903 Easton Drive.
Thank you, sir. You're recognized for
Thank you.
3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. First off, I'd like to thank Marty, Shane, and Adam and the rest of the City Plans and Development Department for all their help with Jones Development. As an HOA, we've had tremendous challenges with them, and the city has been amazing in helping resolve that, and I wanted to take a moment to thank them. But shifting gears, the community has a much larger concern now. As our communities previously discussed with the City Planning Department and the Mount Juliet Police Department, the residential streets in the Baird Farm neighborhood are being used as a cut through between Providence and Central Pike. This has created a huge safety concern for the neighborhood. The drivers passing through the neighborhood routinely travel at a high rate of speed, do not stop for pedestrians, and act aggressively towards our community. For example, my wife, my neighbors, and myself have all been yelled at, threatened, flipped off, or worse, for simply pulling into our driveways, driving at a reasonable state of speed, or riding a bicycle in the neighborhood. The traffic volume and routine aggressive behavior has created an environment in which my wife and many other parents do not let their children ride their bikes outside, play in front of their houses, or even walk to the pool. The traffic volume and speeds increased when the city began routing traffic through Baird Farms for utility work on Rutland Drive, rather than route traffic around our residential neighborhood. This traffic includes a significant number of large commercial vehicles, including heavy trucks. Drivers even speed around school buses when they were loading and unloading in the morning and evening. My daughter was almost hit in front of her school bus by a driver driving around a school bus at a high rate of speed. She is now afraid to ride the school bus. We have previously discussed our concerns with the Mount Juliet Police Department and city officials. However, other than adding 2 speed bumps on Easton, and thank you for that, and occasional speed enforcement, no significant measures have been taken to restore safety to Baird Farms. Our neighborhood has started tracking aggressive and unsafe driving using a Google document. Over the previous holiday week, we've recorded over 20 incidents of unsafe and reckless driving. My family loves our neighborhood of Mount Juliet and simply wants to be able to allow our children to ride our bikes in the neighborhood. We moved to Providence due to the master planning that resulted in the wonderful walkable community. Other streets, such as Woodbridge Place and Mount Juliet, have a large number of traffic control devices to slow down traffic and deter cut-through drivers. What can be done to increase the priority of this issue with the Mount Juliet Police Department and the City Planning Department? For example, additional stop signs could be added, additional speed tables could be added, or the road could simply be signed and closed to commercial traffic with enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Rosie, do you want to stand next to you? I'm going to yield to.
Can I get your name and address, please?
Rosalind Marie Allen. I live at 903 Easton Drive.
Thank you.
I'm a 4th grader at Bradford Elementary. I was almost run over by a reckless speeding driver while I was getting off the bus. Many people in our neighborhood have had these experiences. It happened so quickly at the bus stop. I didn't even see what happened. All I heard was a honk from the bus driver. Now I am too afraid to ride the bus. Also, my family was almost run off the road while we were pulling into our driveway. Even the police officer that responded said the road was dangerous. My 6-year-old brother had one of these experiences quite recently. My brother was riding his bike into a U-turn in our neighbor's driveway, but he went too fast, went into the road, and was almost run over by a speeding driver. I want to ride my bike to school, but the roads are too dangerous to cross on my bike. As people have been speeding, it's getting harder and harder to do things we enjoy, like walking to the pool on sunny days. My whole family has had these experiences. I have a plan to stop the reckless driving. We can make a change to this if we start helping our community by adding extra speed bumps and other measures to stop all of this. It will be better for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, young lady. Yeah. So you're in 4th grade? 4th grade. My wife teaches 4th grade at Rutland, so good school. Hey, Matt, can you get with the gentleman and get his information, please? It may be appropriate, something for the traffic commission or the speed study or what on that. Just make sure we've got something going, please. Is there anyone else to address?
Schools and programs, and they rely very heavily on banners to attract attendees at the events. And in the current ordinance, there's an exception to the sign permitting for signs that are placed on public property. And I've read through this ordinance and it does not have that same exception. So we've always placed those banners in front of the various schools to make use of the exception for public property. And so as the commission considers this, I would ask that the exception for signs on public property be maintained, because you also see the theater group and all the other school groups that use banners in front of the schools to advertise their events, their plays, band concerts, whatever it is. And this ordinance does not preserve their ability to do that. And the other thing that I would point out is that there's a prohibition on string lights, which I found as kind of weird. So now businesses are no longer allowed to put Christmas lights in our windows under this ordinance, which at that time of year is very important to us, and especially those of us in retail, in drawing in customers and kind of drawing attention to our business, that we are in the retail business. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Johnson, Does any of this going to apply to schools for his banners? Well, maybe, can you just get with the gentleman here and we'll continue on with, he's right there on the other side. Just answer. Anyone else for citizen comments?
Yes, sir. It's Vince King. I live at 24 4th Avenue, Mount Juliet, Tennessee. I wanted to share with the board and the citizens of Mount Juliet an experience that I recently had in researching the information. As everyone's probably aware, there were some ethics complaints filed here, and one got dismissed without there ever being a public forum held. So I was curious about that. So I went down and inquired about looking at the documentation and the records. I was given the complaint. I read it in detail. All the attachments and the documents were there as far as I'm aware. Don't know for sure. The rebuttal was there. I read the rebuttal. I also requested to see the minutes and the attendees and the votes that were taken by the Ethics Commission that dismissed this complaint. And I was told by the city attorney that there is no documentation, there is no record, there is no anything. So some kind of ghost meeting was held by the Ethics Commission that is selected by you, this commission, and all of a sudden it's gone. There's no record of it. Nobody knows what's happened to it. And I think the citizens deserve a little more transparency than that. Everybody I talk to is really upset about it, really upset. So just a food for thought. You know, if we're going to do things in this city, it needs to be done right. It needs to be done transparent. The code states that it will be a public forum, a public hearing. It was not done, and nobody seems to care or even worry about it, which is very interesting. And I would also like to point out to everyone that this is an election year. If you haven't registered to vote, you definitely need to. And there's also an election commission meeting tomorrow here at 3:00 for the people that are not online and can't get that notice. So I encourage everyone to attend and get involved in what's going on up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please. Thank you, sir. You recognize 3 minutes.
I'm the executive officer of our Realtor Association here in Wilson County. We have about 1,400 members. So when this comes to speak about business, we have 1,400 businesses. All of our realtors are independent contractors, and they basically own their own businesses and do the marketing. Now, some of the sign ordinances that have already been passed, and we know that a lot of this stuff is already in effect. And so the question I have is, if these are revisions, why are they reiterated on there? And then I've also heard that, we don't even enforce some of these sign ordinances on the weekend because you guys are off or whoever's off. But technically, they are violating the regulations on that, correct? I mean, we are. I think it needs to be amended. It needs to be fixed. We would just like a seat at the table. We, want to beautify the city as much as anybody else does and support you guys and support the city as well. We just like to have a seat at the table if we can. And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else to address the Board of Commissioners? All right. Seeing none, we will close citizen comments and we'll move on to commissioner reports and comments. With that, I'll recognize Commissioner Mullally.
Well, I would like to say Happy New Year and thank everyone for coming out. I like to see this room packed. I do. And when there's a hot topic item, you come in, and I'm glad to see that. I wished every meeting the room was full. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to come down here, whatever it's regarding. I just want to say, I, as a commissioner, use social media platforms to communicate with constituents and, my constituents as well as the constituents all across the city and even beyond in the county. I have a lot of people that contact me. One of those platforms is Nextdoor. I'm currently suspended from that, and I cannot communicate with you through Nextdoor. Temporarily, I'm supposed to get the account back January 13th. So this was a 2.5 week suspension because of a pledge, because of a post I posted about the Pledge of Allegiance Day on December 28th. So anyway, I appealed it. It was denied. So I just want you to know, I want the public to know, that's why I'm not on Nextdoor temporarily. I will be reinstated hopefully on the 13th, so I will be back. And so I was not allowed to post my newsletter that I normally do, the agenda notice that I normally do. So it's difficult, it's frustrating when I can't communicate with the public. But I want you to know, I hope to be back around the 13th. Let's see. There is a TDOT public information meeting regarding the interchange at Central Pike at Providence Church on South Rutland Road. That will occur at, let's see, what is that? February 29th at 5 p.m. from 5 to 7. The public is welcome to attend. The TDOT would like public feedback on that interchange. I think they're also going to be discussing the South Mount Juliet Road widening project perhaps, or not necessarily, but it may come up. But primarily it's about the interchange. So the public is invited to attend. Again, that's Providence Church at 2293 South Rutland Road at, and that was February 29th from 5 to 7. Let's see. I want to thank Mr. King for speaking on the ethics. I personally was disappointed about the lack of public documentation. I also requested public records for the meeting that, I was not privileged to attend because I wasn't invited, only to find out there wasn't any. So I also was very disappointed in that too. And again, there is an Ethics Commission meeting open to the public tomorrow at 3 here, if anyone would like to attend. On the speeding is an issue all over the city. Our police department works very hard. They're, in my district, someone calls me, and Baird Farm is another area too. Then I will call, as not Captain Chandler, Deputy Chief Chandler. I got to get used to saying that. So because the first step is he puts out the speed. They put out the speed monitors to monitor the speed. That's step one. They will gauge it for over a week or whatever to gauge a report. Then that comes in and it goes to Public Works, and they have a certain average over the speed limit that they determine to be dangerous or not dangerous. And now we also have the Traffic Commission that speed humps or traffic calming procedures have to go through as well. So that's an extra step. If I had my way, I would have at least 15 in my district. They're very hard to justify. And but anyway, I wanted you to know the process of how that starts. It starts with the speed monitor, and then it goes to Public Works, and then it goes from there. If the speed humps are warranted, it will go further from that through the Traffic Commission, and but they're very hard to justify. Baird Farm, I know at least 2 traffic studies done on Caroline Way. Both of them were low. I know people do speed. I've gone out to the entrance of Bradford Park myself and stood there at the entrance watching. And I know people speed, it happens. But what they do is they take the 89th percentile of, yeah, but they take a percentile of how they can warrant the speed humps. And by the way, speed bumps are in parking lots, speed humps in roads. And then there's also speed tables like along Providence Trail. Those are speed tables. So just in case you didn't know, I didn't always know that myself. But I wanted you to
Commissioner,
know
you're
the
approaching your
process. Am I
time.
5 minutes? Okay. So I wanted you to know the process of that and how they are so hard to warrant. But I do want to get with you and Baird too, because I know it's a problem. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we'll recognize Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say Merry Christmas. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, and I hope everybody is looking forward to a Happy New Year in 2024. I've been doing a lot of deer hunting, so I've been outside, so you'll have to lose my voice a little bit tonight. Some of you would be happy to hear that. Want to address something, conversation that I've had with several people today and over the last couple of weeks is about the sign ordinance. We went through a process back and Jennifer, you may help me with this, 2018, is that right? I think. And we put the sign ordinance into place. Most did not understand everything that we went through. It was a process, much like having a root canal. And we finally passed this thing, I think, and it was shortly after that we got sued by some people, and we actually had to change the way we did some things as a result of it. So when you bring the sign ordinance up, it is not the most pleasant of experiences or conversations that we're going to have. You know, the folks here at City Hall, the staff here at City Hall work daily to make changes that benefit the overall good of everybody, including the businesses and including the residents. They work from 7:30 in the morning to 4:30 and 5 and 6 o'clock, and some here tonight. Do we pay y'all overtime? Just out of curiosity. Comp time, gotcha. So there's a lot of dedication. There's a lot of knowledge that goes into them making the changes in the sign ordinance. Then they bring a product to us, and then we try to get with you guys, and we come up, you know, with something we're hoping it's kind of, Mark Hinsley is always, I love hearing him say this, you know, the process of making the sausage, you do not want to see the process. You just want to see a really good end result. Sometimes that happens. After the first reading of the sign ordinance, we realized that, okay, maybe that one, you know, the process was what it was, but the sign ordinance was not the good result that we needed. So there's some changes that are going to be made tonight. Now, I do want to also explain that during the process, the last time in 2018, we made those changes, and I heard some comments made today, specifically regarding, I think, the real estate signs. There are no changes in that ordinance to the real estate signs. It is as it was 2018. Today in 2024, it is the same. So anything that you see there now, it's the same thing that there was. I have a goal, and my goal is always to make sure that we have a safe place to live, a nice place to live, a fun place to live. You know, it's a place that I've lived for 61 years. I'm 61 years old. Okay. There's a lot of people here, still, some of them still alive, that treated me really well as a kid and turned this into the wonderful place that I was born and raised. So that's the reason I love Mountain Juliet as much as I do. I want to make sure that we do everything that we can do to keep it the same way it was, to the degree that we can. Now, when I start talking about the businesses, you guys feed us. The businesses in Mount Juliet feed us. We don't have a property tax that does anything but help us pay for a fire department. Goes into the general fund, and it's very minute compared to others throughout the state. I believe, as the mayor has said numerous times, that We have the lowest property tax of any city in the state with our own fire department. Is that correct, Mayor? It's one of the lowest. Okay. We want to keep it that way. The only way that we do that is to make sure that you guys can promote your business to the nth degree, and we want to do everything we can do to make sure you are successful. When you become successful, our city continues to be successful and allows us to do so many wonderful things that we're doing. So please keep in mind, get frustrated with us, get mad, angry. Please don't throw things, but we understand if you want to. But the people at City Hall, the staff at City Hall, even as frustrated as we get with them, we still love them, and they are still doing everything they can do to make our city great. So please keep that in mind and know that we're going to make the changes that are necessary to make sure that you guys are successful. Mayor, I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll recognize our Vice Mayor Trevette.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for all the folks that came out tonight, and Happy New Year. Hopefully everybody set new goals and can keep those going for over 18 days. Remember, anything over 40 days is considered to be a habit, right? So that's everybody set that goal for 42 days. I just want to bring up a couple things real quick. Thanks to all the folks that reached out to me. Obviously, the sign, topic has been very, I don't know what the best term is, but it's been very, very passionate, I guess the best way to put it. There is a lot of discussion, and I appreciate what Commissioner Justice had stated, because that seems to be the biggest topic right there, which is through all these different discussions is, it's kind of like the telephone game. You start hearing, what the rules are, and then all of a sudden before it gets to, the last person at the end of the line, we're shutting down everything, and we're taking down the real estate signs and everything else. So one thing I do want to highlight is that this staff up here, they are the subject matter experts, and their goal is to look out for, everything that's out there, look at all the different businesses. So, so when we ask them, hey, do your evaluation, think about all the different businesses, because as Commissioner Justice stated also is the fact that, we don't want to hinder our businesses. This is how we be able, to make sure that our, we have the best fire department, the best police department, best EMT, and even our staff. So we don't want to slow down any progress and not to, force anybody outside of the city. So that's, that's a lot of, big topic there. When it comes to safety, I appreciate the families that are out there that are talking about the speed. I would love to be able to get some more information from you as well. I know you're not in my district, but we're all still family, and it's all about the kids. That's, that's the number one priority for me. So if there's anything that, that we could be able to work together and find out, that's something I'm really interested in hearing more about. Do want to highlight two things. Again, our parks board, they have done such a great job. I want to thank them for, again, helping out our families that are taking care of all the trees out there. I think most of us had cleaned up all the Christmas decorations in our house, but our parks did a great job picking up, well, not picking up, but allowing everybody to drop off the trees over at Monday Park and Charlie Daniels. I was told today was the last day, but, a big turnout there. And also what's coming up this weekend for the folks that, the grandpas, the dads, the stepdads, and so forth, that are going out to the father-daughter dance. I was told that it's sold out again for another year for 2024. So, for everybody that gets a chance to celebrate that, I was honored enough to take my daughters there the last 2 years. And unfortunately, they've gotten so big that they don't want to hang out with dad no more. But either way, it was a good celebration and opportunity for us to hang out with them. So hopefully everybody else enjoyed it as much as I did. So, Mayor, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll recognize Commissioner Hefner.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate everybody coming out, and for those watching as well. Happy New Year's to everyone. Merry Christmas. Hope you had a safe and enjoyable one. Want to thank Mr. Martin and staff for attending the HOA meeting for Kelsey Glen. I was out of town when it was unable to attend, so I want to publicly thank you and staff for attending that annual meeting. I also want to give a big thank you and shout out to Matt White and staff. He presented us with some really, really good news just after the new year on a grant that he applied for, which was almost $1 million. That's going to go towards technology that's going to assist in the traffic signals on Mount Juliet Road. And I know people may chuckle when I say this, but it's maybe not always the amount of traffic that's on the road that's causing the congestions. It may be something as simple as timing the signal lights. And with this much needed technology enhancements that's going to be made, I think that we're going to go a big way in solving some of those problems. So anyways, a big thanks to Matt White and staff for their hard work and efforts on that. Also appreciate the comment Mr. King made. I know he left. I don't know, maybe he's in the back. But in addition to not only getting out and voting, but I also encourage anyone and everyone, if they want to step up and run for office, pull a petition. I did 3 years ago, was one that's not going to throw darts, get on Facebook and complain. I felt I could make a difference. And rather than complain online, I chose to pull a petition and run. And that's what I chose to do. I love this city. I love every bit of it. I love this job, and I love helping the citizens when they reach out to me. So I encourage you to not only get out and vote this year, but pull a petition and run and try your hand at it. It's maybe not as easy as you think, but you do your best, and you have the city in your heart, and you vote your conscience, and you vote in what's in the best interest of the city. You'll find that you'll be able to sleep at night, and that's what I've tried to do. So with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, sir. And I'll start off by saying happy birthday. I think you had a birthday. Well, thank you. I do want to thank everybody who's here tonight for attending, coming out, and being part of this process. I hear that sometimes too from people that say something's going on. We didn't see the notice or whatnot, and I get it. It's sometimes a lot to keep up with. This commission here meets at least 20 plus times a year. Plus, you got your county commission going in 12 sessions a year. You got your school board, you got your state, you got your federal. You got a lot to keep up with, and so I totally understand that. But thank you again for being here. I'll take this opportunity also to wish you and hope you had a Merry Christmas. Hope you're able to have some time with your family and sit down and relax. And I hope 2024 is going to be as good a year for you as we've got planned here for the city of Mount Juliet. Commissioner Justice mentioned lowest property tax, I think it was, for a full service city. I'll just put an asterisk on there. I did pull those numbers up there at the time. This is about a year and a half or so ago, maybe two now. We were the third lowest property tax in the city, and in the state of Tennessee, and we were the lowest as a community that provided its own fire service. There were a few out there that had a lower property tax, but they were getting their fire service from the county. If we could carve a few $1 million out of our budget that way, we could do a lot of things too on that. But I think there's not a person out there that would complain about the service that we're getting from our fire department and the great job that they do. So I'll just say you're probably spot on right. I just haven't verified that in a few years, and I doubt very much has changed since then. But we are excited about 2024 here at the city of Mount Juliet. Mr. Martin and I were talking before this meeting and just talking about some things that we can do, brainstorming for 2024, things we can do better. We're going to get out there, and you know what? We're going to make some mistakes this year, but we're going to learn from it, and we're going to do better. And everything that we learn, we're going to take it back and continue to make Mount Juliet the great city that it is going forward. So I just thank you all for being here and look forward to an exciting 2024. And with that, I'll recognize our city manager for his comments.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll turn like I normally do where everybody can see me. I want to thank my wife at home who's watching, say hello to her, and I love her. Thank everybody for coming out tonight, those that are watching from home and those here in the commission chambers. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Public Works. It takes a unified effort, but in particular, Mr. Matt White. He'll tell you that we ride hard daily on the things we want to get done in this city because we see what's happening all across our country, and we don't want it to happen in our community. And it's amazing. When I was police chief, I studied a lot of criminal justice, and you talk about Sir Robert Peel, and I encourage everybody in the room, if you get a chance, to see how professional policing started in this country. When policing first started, it was called Keystone Cops, and y'all probably all heard of that. And they professionalize law enforcement. And as a result of that, we have one of the finest police departments, if not the finest in the country. Same for fire and other things. So we strive for perfection. But for a kid that was born and raised in East Nashville, and I see what's happened in Nashville and some other places in Middle Tennessee, you need not drive far to see how quick, if you let blight get into your community, why it's important. But the one thing that we strive to do in Mount Juliet's probably unlike a lot of places is we put public safety number one. We have a $90 million budget. $2 million of that is generated from property tax. So we try not to put too much of a burden on our citizens when it comes to taxes. And we speak daily. As a matter of fact, at every meeting, I don't think that you'll ever hear us say shop local. As a matter of fact, I pride myself on that in the city of starting that even before the Chamber of Commerce did years ago, because they had to be careful. And I get this, because not every member was a local business. You know, some of these members of Chambers of Commerce's are from Donaldson, Hermitage, and places like that. And we want them to do well, but we want and strive for Mount Juliet to do better. That's extremely important to us. So we always say shop mom and pop first and then local after that, because there's lots of local businesses that are corporate businesses, but in our local community. The reason that I personally have put so much emphasis on banners has nothing to do with the size or marketing. My concern is the things that you all don't hear about on a daily basis that scares me for you, since what we do is for public safety. So I wanted to explain that, because I get it as a business owner. It's everything that we do. I've even owned a business myself before, so I understand the importance of if you're trying to sell your home or promote your business or a special event. But what you don't always see behind the scenes, and we try to not share with you because it's really not important, because you have a lot of other more important things to do, is we have a lot of folks, unlike most people in this room, that follow rules, right? They drive properly. A big part of your traffic issues, just like the gentleman mentioned with his precious daughter, is people that go through your subdivision and disrespect you, right? No matter how many stop signs, speed limit signs, and other things, including your speedometer on your car that should tell you when you're speeding. The cars now with the technology are phenomenal. And you're right, the police can't be everywhere. So I plead with folks to be respectful, right? Any of you ever find trash in your yard and you wonder how it got there? It's because somebody threw it out of the car. You ever wonder why people go along street sides and dump stuff in other people's properties? Because it didn't want it to be their problem anymore. And in reality, we used to have a police patch here that I created when I was police chief, and it said people plus respect equals harmony. I argue with my own wife and sometimes don't get along with my brother and family members, but we love each other, right? And we always say here that we love the people that serve this community, and we want to always get it right every time. The mayor sent me a really cool quote around New Year's, and it says, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying, right? I mean, you sit by idly and do nothing. The reason for the banner ordinance, and I'm fine if the commission chooses tonight, by the way, I think I made a recommendation at the last meeting to leave it as it is, if I can get a promise from everybody in this room and beyond that you will help us enforce it from the folks that are going out willy-nilly and going to Tractor Supply and buying metal stakes and driving them into the ground in the right of way, because they are risking life and limb. You're talking about natural gas lines, fiber optic, electric, water, you name it. Now, a lot of that stuff seems deep, but I can tell you situations across Mount Juliet all the time to where somebody just didn't bury it as deep as it should have been. And if we knowingly know people are doing that and we're not trying to stop it, and Marty and his team and codes work tirelessly daily, but it's almost like whack-a-mole. As soon as you get after one person, they feel like, well, look at them and look at them. And we get that. It's like a police officer that stops somebody and they go, but look at them, they're speeding too. We're trying vigorously because we don't want your city to become blighted, because when it becomes blighted, in particular, the ladies don't feel safe going somewhere to shop. That's where we're adding lights and street lights and walkways and greenways. So I thought this would be a good time, because I do feel like we probably could have delivered the message a little better, even though we were putting it out everywhere we could think of, because not everybody's a chamber member, right? So Miss Julie in particular, I want to give her credit. She's here. She's a dear friend, and I patronize her business. And I know that sometimes the commission gets a poor rap too for things that we're trying to do, but I always know that because we love the community, it's in your best interest of what we're trying to do, not to be difficult. When you make the majority of your money off of sales tax, and that's what you're promoting in order to keep people's property taxes low, but services high. I've served 34 years in this city because I love it. My wife taught for 40 years. My grandbabies are growing up here. So the thing that oddly got us at odds is a banner. So if you guys will help with making sure that if you do put a banner out, that you call the codes department, because it's for your safety and we can get them put up safely, I'm all for it. We've used them for years. But what concerns me immensely is we try and we beg and we go to businesses owners, and it's not all of you. We know that most people abide by the rules, but it's those that don't. And the reason it's important is, do we get any wind in this community? We've had some pretty substantial windstorms. I think we're expecting 50-mile-an-hour winds tomorrow. Well, I don't know if you've ever been driving and had two pieces of rebar that Uncle Kenny went, right? I'm just being facetious with that, and put some zip ties on it and went out and stuck a little bit in the ground because it was summertime and the ground was hard, right? Which is when your storms come. Next thing you know, you're driving down Mount Juliet Road and all of a sudden you've got a tarp or a banner across your window and two big pieces of rebar. That happens. We literally had to repair somebody's car because of stop sign because the bolts weren't tight enough on the stop sign. That kind of stuff happens daily where these things are getting blown in the road. So all we're trying to do is make it safe so you can see to get out, so that you can walk and not have to worry about these kind of things. And most importantly, somebody getting hurt from trying to drive these things. The young lady ought to be a perfect example of just slow down, right? So I'm for that if the commission is. And at the end of the day, I felt like that was necessary. Delivery could have been better, and it's like one of those kind of things. We understand passion. Miss Julie, you saw it today. I saw it from you. Miss Julie saw it from me. We love the community. It probably pains us more when we felt like we dropped the ball or didn't deliver our message like we wanted to. Everything we do is for the 32 square miles called Mount Juliet, Tennessee. Everything this staff does for these people that's been up here in this commission just got you, what, $150 million? Fought so hard. You know how rare that is for a city our size to get that kind of money from the state of Tennessee. Thank you, TDOT. Thank you, state of Tennessee. Thank you, governor. And thank you to this commission and to the people that enabled this city through being good stewards, saved enough money to be able to say, we want to put $25 million on the table because we want to be partners in it. And I think that was paramount in why that's happening. That's why you're seeing greenways and streetlights and other things you're seeing. So I feel like y'all deserve that because you come here, you sacrifice time away from your families. And I want you to know that from the heart. If God made me transparent, and I think my wife knows me better than anybody, and you could see it in my heart and soul, I want you to see that's the same message you're getting from everybody that serves this city. You'd be able to tell if we were lying or not. And I'm not lying. I can tell you that's what we do. So if we offended anybody, upset anybody, or didn't deliver the same way we wanted to, we've got to do better. We got to do a lot better. If anybody puts a banner in a right-of-way going forward, rather than a citation, we'll just pick it up. That's a whole lot easier just to pick it up and remove it. It's almost like a police officer seeing a violation and so it tells you to stop, but you keep doing it. It's easier just to stop the violation. So we'll promise you that we're open to doing that if you guys will help us work. We come up with a better solution for keeping these things safe. A dangling banner doesn't bother me as much as the thing flying across a highway or going through somebody's windshield. That's why we decided to try to do something about the ordinance. As far as realtors, you can still put signs out in the yard of the property that you're trying to sell. The reason they don't want you to put them off site like they do on the weekends when they have an open house, which we do typically allow, just like with yard sale signs. Yeah, it's just basically trying to be understanding. But can you imagine all your street corners would be gobbled up with signs if we didn't police this? You wouldn't be able to see to get out of your secondary streets that attach to Main Street. So I hope that that's helped. I hope that you can sense the sincerity and the truth. Y'all spend a lot of time coming here. Your time means something to me. We're only guaranteed so much while we're here. And I hate that you had to spend some of your time to come here because we might not have delivered the message as we genuinely intended. So I hope that that helps. And I appreciate each of you. And we love you. That's what we're here for. And we mean it. And as our previous chief said, there ain't a thing you can do about it. Okay, so I hope that's helped in some way. But Gino, I'd asked Gino too, there was something else that come up earlier that a gentleman, I think Mr. King, I'm not sure if he's still here or not, or for anybody, there's been some questions. Staff itself doesn't have any kind of influence one way or the other on ethics issues. All that's handled by legal. So I'll pass that on to our city attorney. But thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. There has been reference to the Ethics Committee, and Commissioner Mullally mentioned a meeting tomorrow, January 9th at 3 p.m. of the Ethics Commission. There have been 3 resignations from the 5-member commission in the last 48 hours. So that meeting is being continued. As I mentioned probably a month ago when this began, I've recused myself from anything to do with the Ethics Commission due to possible conflicts of interest in representing these 5 commissioners and other matters. And Bill Farmer, an attorney with over 50 years experience and 25 years as chair of the Civil Service Commission in Metro, former Assistant U.S. Attorney, has been conducting and directing the Ethics Commission. He called today and said a notice would be published, and I understand from Ms. Luckett, City Recorder, that that was published this afternoon, noting that the January 9th Commission meeting, Ethics Commission meeting has been continued. Mr. Farmer also told me that he has been working on and is preparing a report from the first meeting, which resulted in the dismissal of the complaints involving 3 of the commissioners. And that should be forthcoming in the next day or two, which will provide some additional information on the basis for the actions taken by the Ethics Commission. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. And that concludes our city manager's report, commissioner's reports. We'll move to our unfinished business consent agenda. Before we get into that, I've got to insist there's a moratorium on ball game scores going from this point forward. Anybody discussing the score could be held in contempt of the commission for whatever that means. So I'll read this. We got our consent agenda here, which is an ordinance to rezone the property known as 333 West Division Street, map 73L, Group C, Parcel 2 from OPS to CTC. That's 8B. 8E is an ordinance to amend Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, known as the Zoning Regulations Ordinance 2001-29, adopted October 8, 2001, as amended by amending Article 3, Uses Regulations, added Section 3, 108, Temporary Events, Uses, and Portable Buildings to include mobile food vendor, food trucks, regulations for residential and industrial districts. 8F, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2023-2024, Budget Ordinance 2023-2024, to accept appropriate grant funds for the Golden Bear and Volunteer Boulevard Traffic Signal Project. I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor of the,
Commissioner Malloy had an idea, excuse me, regarding the length of, and, you know, we had put this on as kind of a research project for the most part up to this point. And I think the way that she had phrased it in the conversation is to take it to the end of the budget cycle. But you were also wanting to go ahead and carry it through July since there were so many events, correct? They
What-
would,
sorry, we're talking about food trucks?
yes.
Okay.
The, at the first reading, when I motioned to extend the trial period through
Why don't we do this? I'm
Okay.
sorry to cut you off, but just to, why don't we take 8E off consent, vote on the other 2, and then group back up with 8E after at the end of the unfinished business?
That
Okay.
would be my motion. If that's acceptable.
Okay. Was there any objection to that? All right. Then we will vote on 8F and 8B. All in favor of those 2 items, 8B and 8F? Sure I'm calling the right ones. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the consent carries, so we'll pick back up with the individual items.
We'll be starting with 8A, is that correct?
8C. We'll get 8C and 8D together if there's no objections. 8A and 8E will be following that one. So 8C, which is an ordinance to amend the land use plan for the property known as Golden Bear Place located at 4403 and 4515 Beckwith Road, map 78, parcel, part of 12, 1701, 1702, from interstate commercial to interstate commercial mixed-use business development center and high-density residential. 8D, an ordinance to rezone approximately 81.61 acres of property on Beckwith Road, map 78, part of parcel 12, 1701 and 1702 from CI PUD and CRC PUD to commercial mixed-use plan unit development, CMU PUD, and to amend the preliminary master development plan for Golden Bear Place. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
And a second. Those 2 items are on the floor for discussion.
Right.
Commissioner Justice.
Uh, If you'll notice, there is a packet that you just received. It's got an email attached to it. And, excuse me, one of the people involved in this project, Mr. Kenneth Powers, contacted me, and I'll be honest with you, our experiences with local developers is always way more pleasant than it is with non-local developers. And so I want to, again, pat him on the back and say thank you to Mr. Powers for bringing this to our attention. We need to add that there's a $7,500, well, let's see, I've actually got this a bit written out for me. The commission and the developer agree that the developer commits to contribute $7,500 per residential unit within the development. This includes a $2,500 per unit credit for the improvements to Golden Bear, Gateway, and Old Beckwith Road that are constructed by the developer. The remaining $5,000 per unit contribution shall be dedicated towards public improvements and/or associated roadway projects in the proximity or the project vicinity of East Division Street. Does that sound accurate to you? Commissioner Heffer's been really involved in getting this through, so I want to make sure that that's fair representation. Okay.
All right, any questions or comments on the amendment? Commissioner Mullally?
It says project vicinity or East Division, right? Or,
Correct.
Okay.
And/or.
and/or.
Well, it says or on the paper, but
The public improvements part that we were talking about, I think the original conversation included East Division Street and also Beckwith Road, which is south of the interstate or the interchange.
So south was included.
Yes.
Okay.
are you good with putting and or in there?
Yes, sir, please.
Then I second. So I've got any objections to replacing or with and or? All right, hearing no objections, we're back to the amendment as, I guess, modified by including the and or in that.
Now, Mayor, also Ms. Hamblin had some items that needed to be added in here as amendments as well. She's given those to me, I think. No, I only have one page. Is that right? This one. That's it. I had next. Well, I guess we can start with the 5, 6, and 7 are the two that we're talking about, right?
Commissioner, how about we vote on the current amendment and then
Okay.
if that's
All right.
all in favor of the amendment, which is the developer agrees that the commission and development agree that the developer commits contribution of $7,500 per residential unit within the development. This includes $2,500 per unit credit for the improvements to Golden Bear, Gateway, and Old Beckwith Road that are constructed by the developer. The remaining $5,000 per unit shall be dedicated towards public improvements and or associated roadway projects in the vicinity of
East
and/or
Division
East
Street
And I guess it should,
and Beckwith Road south of.
it should be in the project vicinity and or East Division Street. I'm stumbling over my words.
Yeah, that was supposed to also have it south of the interstate or south of the interchange, Beckwith Road, south of the interchange as well.
Okay. Right, any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we're back on the ordinance. Mr. Justice, you still have the floor
Okay.
on
The-
this as once amended, and that was the amendment to 8D.
And I don't want to take credit from planning, but this was just in the packet that we got. And so I wanted to she wants to add these two also. 5, 6, and 7 on this particular email are, number 5 would be to request to deviate from the sign ordinance to allow building signage as shown on the attached building elevations. And I believe those elevations are included in the packet that we just received. Do I need to read all of that or just that part of it?
Well, it's just a request to deviate from the sign ordinance to be allowed for building signs and attached building elevations, increase the number of signs and size of signs.
Right. Storage facility, north wall, 150 square feet, south wall, 150 square feet, east wall, 150 square feet. Bowling alley, north wall, 500 square feet. That's a large sign. South wall 100, east wall 500, and one large and one small. Variance to increase maximum size from 300 square feet to 500 square feet. And number of permitted signs on one wall. That is under number 5. Excuse me. Number 6 would be to allow off-site monument signage at locations shown on C2.01. And again, that's going to be in that packet that we just received. That you can look at the fold up.
All right.
And number 7 is to allow project monument signage as shown on C4.01. 3 signs to be 25 feet tall, 3 signs to be 15 feet tall, to allow sign face area as shown on C4.01.
I'll second. Any questions or comments on those? All right. All in favor of the request to deviate from the sign ordinance to allow business signage as shown in the attached elevations, the south facility north wall, 150 square feet, south wall, 150 square feet, east wall, 150 square feet, the bowling alley north wall, 500 square feet, south wall, 100 square feet, east wall, 500 square feet, and a variance to increase the maximum size from 300 to 500 square feet and number permitted on the wall to allow for the off-site monument signage as at location shown on C201 to allow for the project monument sign as shown on C401. 3 signs to be 25 feet tall and 3 signs to be 15 feet tall, and to allow sign face area as shown on C401. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. We're
And-
back on the ordinances twice amended.
Hey, I've got another sheet from her as well. I'm going to hand down to here, but since I am losing my voice, I'll let somebody else read this. Mr. Tibet, you can hand it.
Read these in, Commissioner, or I can read them. Okay. I can read them if it's. We just want to take these. Are you talking about the items in red?
Yes. All right. Some of those may be actually copies of what I just read. Are they not? Okay.
Are these going to capture the variance?
That's awesome.
Ms. Hamlin, will these capture the variances requested as well in the staff report? Okay.
They didn't have to bring back the PUD. It just makes more sense to do it now. So I'm sorry you're getting it last minute, but it just saves us a lot of heartache of opening this right back up.
It certainly does. And after we do this, back on the staff report, I'm going to assume this passes once I read this, if we get a second. But there's some variances requested in here, 1 through 5. It looks like 5 may have already been addressed by this.
The only additional one that needs to be approved is, and I hope I printed it, is the barrier wall for the storage facility, which is on the back page, the very last page of the handout that you guys just received. It's highlighted, it requires a variance. And that speaks about the barrier. We have supplemental provisions for storage facilities. But this will be our first all indoor air conditioned facility. So our ordinance isn't conducive to that. So we just need a variance to C of the supplemental provisions that requires that barrier around the perimeter of the facility. And of course, staff supports that because the entire facility will be enclosed.
That's going to be items D on that final page.
C.
A barrier shall be provided.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it. I'll start with the 1 through 3 on the first page here.
Request to deviate from maximum building height allowed within the CRC, CI, and CMU districts from 35 feet to 70 feet or 6 stories. All areas of the PUD are within 1/2 mile of the Beckwith Road interchange. Height exemption shall be for office, hotel, and multifamily uses. Number 2, request to omit a portion of the required perimeter fence for Area D on the east side of the site along the creek buffer and Area E on the west side along the creek buffer. Number 3, request to deviate from the material standards for Area D, E, and F to allow up to 30% secondary material on each facade. Should a site wish to exceed 30% secondary material, if approved, they shall revisit BOC for PUD amendment. Let me keep going. That was 1, 2, and 3.
That's it.
That's it?
I'll second it. Any questions or comments on those 3 items?
Did you say?
Oh,
And number 4? Request to allow rooftop mounted HVAC units within the multifamily portions of the development. All rooftop mounted equipment will be screened with parapet walls or approved alternate.
Yeah, it's number 4 on the staff comments, so got it. Are any questions or comments on these items? Commissioner Mullally?
So 5 through 8 was addressed on the previous amendment. Yes, okay.
All right. All right, all in favor of the 1, 2, 3, the first, those first 4 variances. Number 1, the request to deviate from the maximum building height allowed by CRC, CI, CMU districts and from 35 to 70 feet, 6 stories in area with all area within the PUD and 1/2 mile of Beckwith Road interchange. Heights exemption shall be for office, motel, and multifamily usage. The second one is request to omit a portion of the required perimeter fence for Area D on the east side along the creek buffer and Area E, the west side along the creek buffer. Number 3, request to deviate from the materials for Area D, E, and F to allow for 30% of secondary materials for each facade. Shall the site wish to exceed 30% secondary materials, they shall revisit the Board of Commissioners for a PUD amendment. And the 4th, which was to request to allow rooftop mounted HVAC units within the multifamily portion of the development. All rooftop mounted equipment shall be screened with a parapet wall or approved alternative. If you're in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Right, those carry. Commissioner Hepner?
Was contacted by the adjacent property owner, and it's just a matter of house cleaning. On their site plan, page C1.01, just for reference, the applicant is showing a roundabout, which is not on their property. And to note that should be removed. And also, future development and traffic studies will dictate how that will transition over to the adjoining property. Matt, is that good? Okay. I don't know if that's something that we need to vote on or is it just a matter of noting? Well, it's not, it's just they're showing it on the plans.
There's a roundabout drawn on the other property. I don't know that we're doing anything that really No, okay, our attorney's saying, so you just want it noted in here?
Correct.
And then our last one, which is number C, a barrier shall be provided around the perimeter of the film of the facility. Said barrier shall be located at the setback line and may consist of either the solid facade of the storage building or a fence. If the barrier is to be provided by a fence, said fence shall be a minimum of 6 feet in height and shall be constructive of opaque or semi-opaque material that will prevent the passage of light and debris such as brick, stone, or architectural tile, masonry units, wood, or similar materials, but expressly prohibiting woven wire. Motion? Second, we have it. All right. Any questions or comments on this one?
Or general store up here on Lebanon Road, are there?
Ms. Hamblin?
That's your favorite fence.
It's my favorite fence, absolutely, yeah.
We're giving them a variance, so they do not have to put the fence or any kind of barrier
Perfect,
up.
good. Okay.
So you won't get to have your favorite fence.
I thank you, Lord. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor of a barrier to provide around the perimeter of the facility, and the said barrier shall be located at the setback lines and may consist of either solid facade of the storage building or a fence. If the barrier is to be provided by a fence, said fence shall be a minimum of 6 feet in height and shall be constructive of opaque or semi-opaque materials that will prevent the passage of light and debris such as brick, stone, architectural tile, masonry units, wood, or similar materials, but expressly prevents woven wire. Signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, back on the ordinance as amended 4 times? 4 times. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Mullally?
I just want to be sure that areas E and F, which is the age restricted 55 and over, it is written that way in the PUD. So that can never change. Right.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, go right ahead, Ms.
It can
Hamblin.
change if you guys vote to change it.
Right.
We'll have to bring the PUD back. You're
But-
welcome to make the condition, and I think it's probably a good idea to include it in the condition, list of conditions, even though it's written on the plans that it's,
Okay, so would you recommend a motion now to have it written that those 2 areas are definitely age restricted?
yes,
All
ma'am.
right. I motion to have areas E and F clarified as age restricted for those 2 areas.
Age restrictive as in 55 and above?
Yes.
Have a second. All right. Any questions or comments on that? Commissioner Tefner?
One of them is a assisted living facility. So one's assisted living facility and the other is 55 plus. So do we want to make them both 55 plus? Or do we want to make it 55 plus and assisted living?
May I speak?
Please.
They're unsure about area F, whether it's going to be apartments or townhomes or the assisted living. So if it comes in as assisted living, it won't be considered residential. It would be considered commercial. So I don't think that you could add if area F were to be developed residentially, then it's restricted to 55 and older, but an assisted living facility is commercial. It would be a commercial use.
Any objection to that change? Yeah. You want to add, say E is age restricted 55 plus. F, if not developed commercial, will be age restricted 55 plus.
Yeah, if it's not developed commercially as assisted living.
As assisted living. Any objections to those changes? Right.
City attorney on this. I know that in the past that we have made a distinction between age restricted and age marketed. So, I mean, you can market something towards an age group, for instance, 55 and up. But I mean, I want to make sure that that's what the developers intended that they want to make it age restricted and use the word restricted before we pass that and do something that. So if I,
Not aware of age intended. You can, age restricted is something that can be enforced and measured, but age intended, you can intend it to be 55 and have it full of 25-year-olds. So well, couldn't fill it. So you would have to ask.
and that's what I'm saying. I mean, Joe Haddix is back there shaking his head as if that's okay. I just wanted to clarify.
Name and address for the record, please.
Joe Haddix, CSTG 2305 Klein Avenue. With the age restricted 55 plus designation, that is the intention.
So you're good with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't fixing to do something accidentally to the plan that.
All right, any questions and comments? All right, I'm going to read this back just to make sure we're on the same page. Area E shall be age restricted 55 plus. Area F, if not commercially developed as assisted living, shall be age restricted 55 plus. All right. All in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're back on as the ordinance itself is amended 5 times. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Mullally.
I just want the public to know that the multifamily in the front part, there's no 3 bedrooms, correct? That's correct. There's no 3 bedrooms, which typically attracts families with kids. Not saying there won't be kids, but it should have a very little effect on the school system. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Commissioner. My last question to our city planner. What happens with this project if the bowling alley falls through?
They will have to come back with a different commercial use, but they still have that industrial base zoning, and they have taken out all the industrial uses
Okay,
as part of this PUD.
so it's comes back if that happens.
If the use is different, if it wants to be used industrially for a use that's not specified on this PUD. For instance, they have a list of uses for IR, and they have taken all of the industrial uses out. So it, by that nature, should only be developed commercially. But if a skating rink wanted to come in instead of a bowling alley, then it would not come back to this body. Or if any kind of other use, it would not come back to this body, because as long as they can meet that base zoning requirement, and they pulled out the uses, industrial uses from that section. Does that make sense? So area D, while it has the industrial base zoning, they've pulled the uses, industrial uses out in this PUD document.
Okay.
You can make the condition that it comes back if it's not used for a bowling alley. I will tell you that we've met in a pre-app. I know that we meet in a lot of pre-apps and they don't come to fruition, but we have met just this past week in pre-app for the bowling alley.
Okay, and I'll make that my amendment. If the bowling alley falls through, that it come back to this board. Second. Any questions or comments on that? All right. All in favor of requiring the PUD to come back to the Board of Commissioners if the bowling alley falls through, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right. Back on this ordinance as amended 6 times. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor of, let me get the right letters here. 8C, which is the land use amendment, and 8D, which has been amended 6 times, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. Both those items pass. So, our next item on the agenda is an ordinance to amend, which is 8A, an ordinance to amend Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, known as the zoning regulations, Ordinance 2001-29 adopted October 8, 2001, as amended, Article 11 signs.
Motion.
Have a motion? We're on the sign ordinance. Is there a second? I haven't heard a second. You got, is that a second? Okay. Is there no second on the ordinance? All right, all right. 8A, the sign ordinance fails for a lack of second. And if you're in the audience wondering what happened, it didn't get a second, so it won't be read. The ordinance fails. The existing ordinance stays in place. No changes, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And we pulled 8E out of consent, which 8E is an ordinance to amend Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, known as the zoning regulations. Ordinance 2001-29 adopted October 8, 2001, as amended by amending Article 3, Use Regulations, adding Section 3-108, Temporary Events, Uses, and Portable Buildings to include mobile food vendors, food truck regulations for residential and industrial districts. Is there a motion? Motion and Commissioner Mullally as a second. All right, the item's on the floor. Commissioner Mullally?
Yeah. At first reading, I was a week out of surgery, so I don't know what I was thinking other than, because what I did was I motioned to have the trial period extended through the end of June instead of ending in February. So I guess I was thinking about budget. That's when budget ends. But after the meeting, I was thinking, it should cover the July 4th events and the other events in July. Why did I do that? So anyway, I was wondering if there might be support, and I guess I'll motion to have that extended through the end of July 31st instead of June, so that we can, which basically would be the summer, because school starts back the 1st of August anyway. So basically that I would motion for it to be extended through the end of summer, which I guess would be July 31st.
Motion is to extend, that's the sunset clause until
Yes, yes.
July 31st of 2024.
Yeah.
Okay. And Commissioner Hefner, you're good with that? Any discussions on the amendment to the sunset clause? All in favor of it extending the sunset clause to July 31st, 2024, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the ordinance is amended with the sunset clause changed July 31st, 2024. Any other questions or comments on this item? All right, all in favor of the ordinance as once amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Second reading. We'll move to new business under 11A, a resolution approving the award construction contract for the South Green Hill Railroad Crossing Signal Improvements Project and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract. Motion, I'll second. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? 11A carries. 11B, an ordinance to amend the preliminary master development plan, PMDP, for the Providence Planned Unit Development PUD located at 80 Belinda Parkway, map 96, parcel 1.11, in the city of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, Wilson County, Tennessee. Have a motion? I'll second. Any questions or comments on this one? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? 11B carries. 11C, an ordinance to amend the preliminary master development plan, PMDP, for the Mount Juliet Commons Planned Unit Development PUD being located at 12950 Lebanon Road, map 53, parcel 109, in the city of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, Wilson County, Tennessee.
Second.
Motion and second. Items on the floor. I just have one question on this one I want to be certain of. It says veterinarian services will all be done indoors. That doesn't mean indoor on a screen porch. It means indoor. No, I don't want a repeat of the other stuff. So I guess I'm looking at you, Miss Hamlin.
I interpret indoors as completely inside the building.
Completely enclosed. Okay.
Yes.
Condition.
Commissioner Justice, you want to make that condition?
I would.
All right.
I would ask that the animals would be indoors and would be contained and, see, how would we word that? Sorry. An enclosed area with a roof, enclosed on all four sides, correct?
You could also say in the primary building. I think that would capture, because you don't want them to have like I'm sorry, Mayor, for speaking.
No, go.
You don't want to have them like outside in a shed or another structure that they might build. So in the enclosed in the
In
primary.
the
building.
primary area, yeah.
Fully enclosed in primary building.
I already anticipate phone calls and you hadn't said that, so thank you.
All right. That's your motion or your amendment?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll second that. The amendment is to require that the veterinarian services be fully enclosed in primary building. All right. Any questions or comments on that? All in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, back on 11C is once amended. Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor of 11C, please signify by saying aye. Or
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? 11C carries.
I want to thank the commission because I know a lot of times stuff like that gets lost in translation. We appreciate our veterinarian clinics and all, but a lot of times when they back up to residential, I thought it would help some clarification. If they've got the outdoor runs, it can create a little bit of a nuisance. So that's why you guys do what you did. And I thank you for that. I think that was the right move, and we can have peace and harmony.
Yeah, I don't think everybody's been invited to sit on back porches. Listen. All right. 11D, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget ordinance 2023-2024 to accept and appropriate grant funds for the South Green Hill Road crossing signal improvement projects. I'll make a motion. Got a second on that? Any questions or comments? I'll just add excellent work on getting this fully funded. So it's going to be a big improvement. That's probably safe to say the oldest signal in the city. It is the oldest signal in the city. So it's finally getting the love it needs. The oldest equipment. Yes. Be careful there how I word that. It's the oldest equipment. So it's going to be a much needed upgrade. Any questions or comments on this? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? 11D carries. The last item, we have some appointments. I'll recognize Commissioner Mullally. She has her nominees she would like to put forward.
Okay. I would like to nominate Gina Clark to replace my former nominee appointee for District 4.
Any questions or comments on the nomination? All right. All in favor of Gina Clark, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Nomination carries. I have put forward a nomination for Parks and Greenway Board for Terry Atwood. Is there any questions or comments on the nomination? All right. All in favor of Terry Atwood, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Terry Atwood will be appointed to the Parks and Greenway Board. Commissioner Justice, you had asking for the floor.
Yes, sir, I am. Actually, I had my person that I had appointed to the Ethics Commission also resigned, and I've got somebody to replace him. So I'd like to present them if I could.
I'm going to ask the city attorney, and it's not maybe as big a deal as we think, because I've also got an appointment that I found out about today.
Yeah.
At a very close, so I don't have a name yet. So we may be Mr. Marchetti. Can we do an appointment when it's not being on the agenda? Can we suspend the rules?
That's what I would do.
Okay.
So I asked if this point that we suspend the rule. And
Have a motion to
and allow for that.
suspend the rules. Is there a second on the motion to suspend the rules? We have a second. All right. Any questions or comments on the advisement of suspension of the rules? All right, hearing none. All in favor of suspension of rules, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Rules are suspended. Commissioner Justice, you have the floor.
I do, had a person on the Ethics Commission that has resigned. And I contacted another person who lives in my district, and her name is Georgina Hughes. Georgina is an attorney, and a very accomplished legal mind. And I have a lot of trust in her that she'll do the right thing. So, that would be the name that I put it. Excuse me.
All right, any questions or comments on the appointment of Georgina Hughes? All right, all in favor of the appointment, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that is so appointed. I'll make a motion to go back into regular session.
Second.
Any objections to returning session? Back in session. Our last item on the agenda is adjournment. Any objections to adjournment? Hearing none, we are adjourned.